Pamtengo.com, streaming 24/7.
This is Pamtengo.
Okay, so this is the time that we've been waiting for a while. For about 2 weeks we've been talking about this, and I'm so excited to say that we finally have talking to us MisRed. And let me just say this before I even start the interview. Somebody might say radio DJs interviewing radio DJs, but this is a totally different ball game, I'll tell you now. Because what this particular broadcast has done is that she's written a book. I'm trying to go back, and I know that a lot of maybe former DJs have done that, but it's not been at this magnitude of a young lady who's probably just in her early 30s, sitting down, making time. And I know how radio life is like. She's quite busy, but she's been able to sit down and write a book. I thought this was amazing. The very reason why I said to myself, let me look for her. And the part that a lot of you probably would not realize is that I knew that she'd written a book because I follow her on her social media pages. So I knew she'd written a book. And then when it was about to be published, I had like two friends coming to me and saying, do you know that MisRed is actually come up with a book? I'm like, yeah, I've been following. They said, we really want to read that book because we've listened to her interviews, and it's something we really need to read. And they really saw it through. They did get the books once they were online, and they have had to read the book. But I said to myself, I'm going to just walk slightly further and look for her and talk to her about her book. So I'm so excited at this point that I have MisRed on the line to talk about her new book and everything in between. Right, Samantha, how you doing? Hi, can you hear me? Hi, Samantha? Hello there? Okay, my phone decides to play up. Hello there? Okay, hold on. Hey, Samantha. Yeah. Now I can hear you. It was all my fault. Forgive me. Age is properly catching up. You need to forgive me.
I was saying.
Yeah.
I think I'm more excited to be talking to you.
You reckon?
Right now, because this is like it's a crazy moment for me, because I think you were the biggest voice for me growing up.
Wow.
So I was like, yo, man. And I have an uncle of mine, actually, who was like, I recall this when I was younger. He always used to be saying to my aunt, she's like, you know what? One day I'm going to leave you for Bridget Gavanga. When I find her, I'm going to leave you, and that's going to be the end of our marriage.
Oh my.
So until today, my uncle always talks about this, and my aunt is always like, oh my God, you radio people. So, apart from that, I think you're such a big voice for pop culture in Zimbabwe, and I'm so grateful to even be having this moment. Hey?
Oh my God. I'll tell you this. I'm overly excited, and it's you've no idea. I'm so excited. I'm like, wow, God, you are so amazing that in our time we get to see youngsters that come out and show themselves the way you've done. And I'm not even going to speak just about you taking that step further to write a book, but it's also just how you've made your presence felt. I can see the work that you put in it. And there are times when I'm emotionally angry, because at times I look at people trying to troll and saying this and what, I'm like, you know what, I just wish I could tell them off. But because I'm the terrorist, I stay in the terrorist kind of person, I just then read and then I get my anger and then I move on. Yeah. But look, I am so happy to have you on the program. I am so happy to have you. Pamtengo, the whole team, they are so excited that, you could actually make time for us and, get to talk to us. So anyway, no problem.
Yeah.
I always try to tell this story that when I started radio, I was a very devoted young Christian girl. Okay?
Yeah.
So it was it was a shock because I never used to discuss it, because I felt like within my team, my youth group, a lot of people didn't understand why you'd love secular music so much and wanting to listen to the radio that much. But I used to do that a lot. So that side of my life was a side that I didn't share with a lot of people except those that were very close to me. Okay? So, and there was always talk about, you know, so there was always that sort of, you know, kind of disrespectful way of looking at people that get into entertainment. So I'm coming from such a background, but this is what I'm very passionate about, I think, from the time I was 7 years of age. So you don't share it much, you just go do your thing quietly. And then when it happens, people start saying, so this is my journey as I'm starting. I'd have a lot of negatives going on. And I was just curious when I realized I'd be talking to you, like, how did your journey start? Did you get a lot of support? How did it all start for you?
You know, the craziest thing about it is that I've always loved music from like an early age. I actually played instruments in school. I studied music in school for my O-level. I actually wrote O-level music, right? Wow. So it's something that's just always been within me. I was an Stedford accredited singer. And, you know, all these things that I used to play marimba as well, really well. I sang in combined choir.
Wow.
So I've always been around music. So there was never a time that I don't remember that I didn't have music. So apart from that, I used to always really love the radio. Like it was an intense passion for radio. I just loved listening to radio. And back in my day, I think I used to have a lot of your Simon Parkinson's in the morning and Anna Pause. That's when they put still on radio, and I still love that. And Peter Jones, and I'll be like, yo man, like it was such a big thing for me. I would listen to radio by appointment.
Wow.
Every day after school, I'd sit down, I'd listen to the radio, and that's just how
So you were just basically arts. You were arts from the word go.
Yes. Wow. I never wanted to do anything else, or you know, I was just about the party. I was just about entertainment. I was just about creativity, and that's all I did. So I think in my life it was very difficult because I never really thought I could have a career out of it. So my mind was never really settled as to what I could do in my life. So I never really had like any ambitions apart from listening to music, having a good old time, and that was just my life, you know. So my radio journey was actually quite interesting because I always say God placed it within me. I didn't actively look for it, but God found it.
Just placed it for you.
That makes sense. Yeah, he placed it for me.
Wow.
So yeah, it's actually a crazy story. I don't know. I actually write about it in the book.
Oh, you did?
Which
is why I still need to listen, because I need to read
I
it.
spoke about it like a little bit,
Wow. Which also takes me to.
I was a Sorry?
You can go and I'll talk after you, yeah? Can you hear me?
Saying that when I started this whole thing, I used to have just a basic voice, to be quite honest. And then I got pregnant with my first daughter. Yeah. And then my voice broke. So it got really, really deep, right?
Really?
So in there somewhere, my voice was never always like this. It just broke. I don't know what happened to my voice box during pregnancy. So I started having this deep voice, and everyone's like, yo, your texture is very just different. So it's, you know, it's bassy. And it used to be deeper than this. It actually got self-corrected with time. But it used to be way deeper than this. I used to sound like Muna no Amasisi, you know? So
that's even sexy, actually.
Right? What then happened was that I started working at this call center whilst I was in Pretoria. And then, you know, when I was working at this call center, it was a horrible job. I hated it so much, but I had to do it because I had to pay the bills, and I had just dropped out of school. So I didn't have anything else to do apart from doing that job. So I then started doing, you know, someone would call and, you know, they'd like my voice. And I'd be like, who's that girl from the call center? So I just became the popular girl from the call center because of my voice. And then one day a guy called and he happened to do voiceovers. And he's like, I really like your voice. But I thought, you know, brother man is trying to like throw his word or something, you know. But I was like, And then he then called my boss, and then he says to my boss, you know what, there's a girl who's at your call center and I'd really like to do some work with her. Please kindly ask her to come see me. Here's my number, here's all the details. And then my boss convinced me to go, and then I did go because, you know, I was just curious as well. I went, and then I did my first couple of voiceovers. It was, you know, great monies that I was making. Then I was actually making 3, if not 4 times more than I was at the call center. And then someone then says to me, why don't you try radio? You know, and I was like, oh, okay. Maybe. And at that time, I think that's when the news stations were now coming up in Zimbabwe, because predominantly back in the day it was just ZBC radio stations.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So now there was the Star FM coming out, there was the ZFM coming out, and all the other news stations that had come out at that time. And I just applied to everyone, and everyone rejected me. So then I just, you know, I was like, oh, okay, it's not going to work out. So
no, I don't remember. I don't remember you looking for us.
I actually did. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I sent my demo to all the radio stations. No one gave me a response.
Oh, no.
Like, oh. So then I had to move back now, because I was like, okay, this whole life is not working out. My bills were not balancing out in Pretoria. So I moved back to Zimbabwe. And I had nothing that I was doing. I was absolutely unemployed. Nothing that I was doing in my life.
Wow. God is amazing, man.
Right. And then I went weeks, months without anything that I was doing, but I had a daughter that I had to take care of. And, you know, I was feeling really distressed. And then one day I remember going behind my mother's house. I sat down at first, and I was sitting by Wusu, I remember. But my mom used to have like an area where she would pray, like in the garden. Yeah. So we used to just call it Bakrao. So I just sat there for like a few minutes, and then I decided, hey, let me have a conversation with God. But my conversation with God wasn't, I wasn't praying nicely. I was shouting at God. I remember I was shouting. I was like, you remember Lord, what's wrong with me? What kind of God are you? I really remember I shouted at God, right? And then I finished. I let myself out. I emptied myself out. I was done. And then I said sorry at the end of the prayer.
At least you remember to say sorry.
I said sorry.
But he heard you.
Okay, done.
Yeah.
But he heard me. So exactly 10 minutes later, I got a phone call from Tony Friday. And then Tony Friday, at the time, he was the programming manager at ZFM. Yeah. And then he says, come in, we want to work with you. And that's literally how it all happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's these stories that give me the goosebumps. Like, literally, you hear someone's story and how they've started, which is why I always want to find out, even when I talk to the guys that are doing music back home, I always want to find out, how did you find yourself saying, I'm going to the studio and I'm going to start recording a song now? And the stories are always so intriguing. The stories are always, you see how great God is in everyone's life. Do you know what I'm saying? And whether they're a believer or they're not, but you definitely see that God has done an amazing thing. And your story too is just giving me the shivers, man. Wow. Wow.
I keep on encouraging people, especially the younger generation, to document it, because these stories are so important to tell, because there's someone else who needs that encouragement to know that we're not all perfect. We don't have a perfect start. No. But God perfects us as we go, you know?
Wow. And this is why I love to do this as well, because you know how because I've been in a situation where I've been so busy with my life, and there are times when I'd forget to find myself, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And when I came out of the country and went through everything that I went through, and said to myself, I think I really need to get back to radio, and not just radio, but Zimbabwean radio, and do what I can do with the little time I might have to do that. What is amazed me the most, and why I'm saying this, is because there is a lot of parts I missed out that would have actually inspired a lot of people in the people that I worked with, in the people that were around me, that when I hear their stories, I am almost in tears, like, God, how amazing is this? And then we have the world of social media, where we're seeing a whole different scenario of the people around us. So it's there's an imbalance, I'd call it, because half the time we don't know the actual stories, but what we're seeing is what is happening in our busy world. So you're going to see Babs, and you're probably going to see Babs putting on a nice dress and whatever. But you don't really know her story. You don't really know what's going on in her life at the moment, because that is the stuff that is missing. And which is the reason why I said to myself, I want to come out with a program where I'm able to talk to some of these people, and they get to share their stories in a relaxed, non-judgmental kind of a setup, where I'm not expecting someone to re-record and then throw it somewhere else and then start saying things that were not said. Because I see that happening a lot of times.
The wrong content.
Exactly. They'll just pick a few words and then come up with something else and then create a whole horrible human being that doesn't exist. So this is what is amazing for me, that we can be able to talk to MisRed and we get to hear this side. I know you've probably shared this a lot more times, but the fact that we also get to hear about it, those that hadn't heard about it, it even inspires us more to want to read your book, which is where I'm going now. What inspired you as a radio broadcaster to say, I want to write a book? And why did you come up with that title as well?
You know, I keep on saying, I think I'm a big fan of storytelling, and I love sharing myself in multiple ways. So sharing myself is a big thing for me, whether it's sharing my time, sharing my knowledge, sharing my story. I think it's just always important to share what you can. And you know, I just wanted people to know that apart from everything else, I'm also human. I go through stuff.
That's true.
More importantly, the writing of the book was more selfish than anything else, because it was almost like a process of healing, because I went through so much over the last 2 years. But I then remembered at some stage that it was important for me to also be faithful to my own happiness, which is the title of the book.
Yes.
Be faithful to your happiness.
Yes.
So it had been something that I'd been meditating on for such a long time. And I'd write, you know, little like notes, and I'm someone who's very tactile. So I like to write. Every time I have a thought, I write it down. Every time something happens, I write it down. So this became the premise of how I actually started writing the book. Whenever I could, I'd always take a pen. I literally write pen and paper.
Wow.
But not laptop, but pen and paper. And then when I have time, then I'll move it to my laptop. So once I had like a solid amount of notes, I then said to myself, hey, I could actually like do a book. So it never really started off as I want to write a book, but it started off as my thoughts, my feelings put down, my failures. I would write them down so that I can go through a process of kind of recollecting my past and just self-correcting, you know. So it started off with recorrecting, and then it became self-correcting.
Wow. And so coming up with the title of Be Faithful to Your Happiness is a personal experience. Like you say, it was selfish of you, from just writing your notes about your thoughts and everything. But coming down to then narrow it down and say, be faithful to your happiness. Would you say that it's because you felt that for a long time you like to call it cheating on your happiness? Did you feel like you were cheating on your happiness?
I think for the most part, I didn't even know I was cheating on my happiness until I started looking back at some of those notes, and I was like, wait a minute. But this is a form of cheating on myself. Because if you look at a relationship, how people cheat, you think you're doing the right thing and it feels right, but you know something is just not quite as it should be, because you're doing something wrong, but it feels right. And this is what was happening with my life, whereby I was doing things that didn't allow me to be the best version of me. Wow. And I don't blame anyone else except for myself for all of it. I mean, obviously there's a level of conditioning that happens with other elements, but at the end of the day, it comes down to yourself and what you allow and what you don't allow. And for myself, I think I was allowing too many things that made me cheat on myself and my happiness, because at the end of the day, you can never be a great mom, a great partner with your husband, your wife, unless if you are okay first and foremost.
That is
so you have
true.
to fix yourself and then be the best version of yourself for everyone else.
You can't pour out from nothing.
You can't pour out from nothing. So I then realized that I was pouring out from nothing, and I was always angry at everyone around me. But I needed to fix myself first. And then, when I realized I was cheating, that's when I started to say, okay, how do I become faithful?
And started working on
That's
it,
where
and
it all
writing things
actually
down
starts.
also did help, because
Yeah.
there we are, we're all very privileged. We're lucky we end up with a book, because you got so
Yeah.
much. It takes me to a comment that someone's made on one of my posts where I was mentioning that I'd be talking to you. His name is, I had to actually take his comment. His name is John Batrai Mujamba. He said, Tichitreo Soko, Tikuda, an audio book. And can you just imagine, listen to what he said. The voice, class, wisdom, inenge ichita kuchururuka munzeve so. And now that I'm listening to you, I'm talking to you, I'm like, listen, there's people that really know what you're made of, because for your age and the wisdom that you've got, it's amazing. It's totally amazing, because it takes a whole lot of growth to get to a point where you say to yourself, listen, I need to slow down and start to look at myself and see what I need to do about myself to find me. Most of us are finding ourselves way over 40, or maybe in our 50s if we're alive. So for a young lady in her 30s to get to a space where you say, no, I've been cheating on myself. What are the things that I need to correct? And you say you start to self-correct it's totally amazing. I also noticed something, your mom, and in your book, you have a picture, an image of you and your mom. How has she inspired you? You did mention her with 𝗪𝗧𝗪𝗥𝗏. How has she played her part in sort of molding the person that we celebrate now?
I think my mom is, I feel like crying every time I talk about my mom, because
I know, man.
She is someone who has so much courage. She's lost so much, and yet she still holds our hands and says, you know what, guys, it's going to be okay. Even when you see she's at her last, at her zero, she'll still come and hug you and say, even at my zero, I'll still give you that zero and make sure that you feel that you are loved, you're cared for, and you can still do this. So every time I felt like, and my mom is my best friend, by the way. I have very few friends, but my mother is actually my best friend. We discuss everything from sex to men to everything with my mother.
Wow. And I think that is very important, especially if you're in this world of the kind of work that you do,
and I always feel she's my safe haven. And when everyone is saying stuff about me online, the first person who called me is my mom. And she's like, Shad, don't worry, it's okay. That's my mom.
Exactly.
So that confident voice at the back of my head.
And it's so powerful that it actually gives you strength. That's the thing with our mothers and our parents in general. You start to feel different the minute they speak.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because a lot of the time people are like, so what do your parents say? And I'm like, actually, my parents are okay.
Okay.
So,
I'm surprised you guys are going on. Chill, child. I'm good.
Okay over here. So I think my mom's, her humility, just her love, her...
that is really beautiful. You said, I think a day ago, I was just looking at some of your posts on Facebook, and you had a post where you said, have you ever been so broken internally and all you want to do is to go to the corner, cry, and you feel like nothing can fix you? I moved so broken for such a long time. I still work on it every day, but I learned to liberate myself from the baggage of burden. It is well. Work on you say. So my question is, during the writing of the book, you've already sort of told us how you got to find yourself, then saying, I think this is a book we need to write. I need to write a book. But were you going through any form of emotions when you were writing? And how long did it take you to actually then say, I'm done with the chapter. Now I've got so many chapters. Just take me through. Give me a walkthrough.
Okay. So I suffered from depression for a long time. Mental health issues are a very big thing for me.
Bless you,
So I always encourage people to find ways to just talk through it, because if you don't, you may die inside.
That's
and
true.
It's a very slow death that can be very dangerous if you leave it unchecked.
True. Wow.
It was my way of expressing or letting it out. That's how it was happening. So I never wrote it as, chapter 1 done, chapter 2. No. I literally wrote everything, and then someone else came in and then they organized it. with me.
Wow.
So it was over a period of I think it was over a period of about 5-6 months of just writing.
Wow.
And then we sat down one day and they were like, okay, fine, now
the chapters,
to put it together and the chapters. But it was never like okay, today you're writing one chapter. No, it was just a bunch of different thoughts, a bunch of different experiences in my life that I remembered that I wanted to talk about, and then I put it on paper.
I think was my process. The best description for this kind of writing is then you really would call it gets very spiritual, because it's like you're giving a part of you out. You did not just say to yourself, okay, I'm on a schedule, just like how you get on your radio show and I'm starting at 6 a.m. or is it in the afternoon, 6 a.m. by 9 we're done. In this first hour we're going to do this. We give 5 minutes to this sponsor, whatever. But you let the emotions lead the path. So it's like you've really taken a part of you and put it to paper, which makes the book, I think, more interesting to read. I was thinking about this. Do you think your book has a gender? Were you specifically looking at women, men, old, young? Would you give it a gender?
I don't think it has a gender per se, but I think it's got a category of people that it may speak to more than others. But inspiration can come at any age, to be quite honest with you. I don't think there's a limit to where inspiration can come from. However, I was looking at it in hindsight of what happened.
Yes.
So it would probably be more of a younger person who would look at it and say, oh, okay, these are some of the things that you can potentially go through. And this is how you can potentially maybe find a way of fixing it, right?
Wow.
Or not necessarily fixing it, but just finding something that can lead you to try fix it.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's not me giving you tactics of fixing it, but it's just giving my own personal inspiration or my personal methods of how I went through it.
Wow. Which was the most intense sort of chapter? When you now look at the chapters, where do you say that you were really speaking through the emotions in the chapters, if you had to pick one or two?
I think because there are 3 parts in the book and then there are 5 chapters. So the first chapter it was cheating. The first part was cheating. So I think in the chapter called "What Have You Believed" was probably what molded me most and what was the most intense, because I speak on what people would say to me and how that made me believe certain things and move forward in a certain way. I'll use an example. When I was growing up, I was a very rebellious teenager.
Yeah.
And I had one of my aunts who said to me, but she's a write-off, So basically, people just wrote me off and say I couldn't become anything because of my rebelliousness. But no one ever stood and said, hey guys, why have you stopped believing in her? She's so young. She's too young for you to stop believing in her. So I believed that so much so that even how I moved about, I stopped having ambitions. I stopped thinking that I could be anything more than a rebellious person in my life because of what I was told and what I heard when I was growing up from those people who were meant to be my guardians or the people who were supposed to raise me, who are, my family members. So I think the first part is probably where I really go deep into
those emotions and the experiences. Wow.
Yeah, what potentially could have hindered my progress had I continued to believe it.
Right. Social media, let's talk about that. As a young, successful broadcaster who's in the now, okay. Social media obviously has become a tool for comms. Even I tried to sort of ignore it and say, no, I didn't come from that era. There was Facebook, but I wasn't. If you go back to 2011, then I wasn't even on Facebook. Yet I was probably really the much talked about radio DJ. But I just, I always say that I find weird people in the inboxes. I am not interested, so I just never used to pay attention. That part of my life you won't really see on social media because I just wasn't present. But we're in a space where you really can't ignore it. But it comes with a lot of ups and downs. How have you been able, to float on maybe I would say, how have you been able to survive? And when I say this is because please don't even think I'm saying it because I'm interviewing you. I follow you. I actually get notifications. So when I get time, I will actually probably say, so what is she doing now? I remember at some point on Twitter, you went somewhere and you were playing football with the kids. And instead of people appreciating what you are doing, that you've gone there with no intention of playing football, but you've gotten there and there's children there that you felt you really needed to kick the ball with. You didn't come there with the shooters in them, but people were more concerned about the way you look and how you dressed. How do you deal with, because I've never seen you going off. You just always maintain your presence and you do your thing. How have you managed social media in the rough world we live in now?
I think, I always say this, hurt people hurt people.
That's true.
But apart from that, social media really is a tool. So it's a tool to communicate what you're doing, how you're doing it, where you're doing it, and that should be it. I think if we dwell, or if I were to dwell on, oh my gosh, ndazonzi or ningi akazoti, I think it wouldn't really be good for my mental health. So I've learned over time to just stick to what I'm doing, and I post what I post. When I'm done, I get off. Long back, I would now wait. I would go through all the comments. I would respond to everything that was nasty. And I would even go to the DM for people. Woo, shame. And I'll be like, you don't even know me, Sha. You don't talk about. And then someone's like, you're wasting your energy on things that actually don't matter. This person, you don't know them. They don't affect your bottom line. So don't worry. So for as long as they've got something nasty to say, just ignore, because there's a difference. A lot of people don't know there's a difference between constructive criticism versus someone just being plain old nasty. I have absolutely no problem with someone saying, you are wrong, and then we argue. Je n'aime respect, right? Respectful arguments. I'm all for it, because I think the world would be such a dull place if everyone was agreeable, right?
I know.
But when those people come and they're like, oh, your legs, elephant legs, and all these things, and I'm like, oh, actually, there's a girl who looks just like me, and she needs to know that she's also normal. Just because we've been given this idea of what a perfect woman should look like by magazines and by TV, doesn't mean that because I look like this, there's something wrong with me. No. So that was always my thing when I went onto social media, because I wanted to communicate how beautiful different sizes and shapes are, different heights, and I used to love that. So I used to manage it through just being my authentic self and just posting what I believed was okay for me. And then I just stopped looking at trolls. That's really how I ended up managing it. I post what I post, and then when I'm done, I get off.
Wow. If somebody was listening today, we have people on Facebook watching it at the same time. What would you say to them about the book that they really, really need to know, that you feel like, if I tell them that if they had to read this book, yes, you've already told us all your experiences, and I think it's powerful enough already. But that just one line, because for me, happiness is an inside job. That's just what I take before by reading the introduction. But I haven't actually read the whole book. But what would you say to someone? I would say to someone, listen, happiness is an inside job, and find out what MisRed has to say about this. What would you say, yourself?
I think that actually is the crux of everything, because that's the subtitle of the whole entire book. Because for a long time, I thought that happiness was based on money, if I had a nice car, if I had a house. And now those things are there. But it's like, oh, okay, I'm still happy. So what is it? What more is it? Is there to life? So basically, this book just takes you on that journey of happiness being an inside job, and how I discovered it. So I think for anyone who's listening, if you want to just maybe have a small insight as to how I went through my process, and maybe you can also be inspired by that same process to start looking at your life differently, I think this book might be just what you need. And it's a quick read. It's nothing too long, but
yeah, that's what I loved about it as well. One of my friends actually just read it over a day, and I was surprised. I'm like, you're done? She's like, yeah, I'm done, and I feel great. I feel great after reading it. And she said, I just didn't want to put it down.
Be like a long, draining. thing. Yeah, it's nice and concise, and you can read it on a plane going somewhere. But it's
And
just
be
a simple
done.
way of just, finding what that means. Yeah.
And so because you've done this, the icebreaker, are we expecting more books out of you?
Mm-hmm. I think I have, I've loved this so much. I think I'm going to write a proper memoir, because this one wasn't really a memoir. It was just me touching on a few things that I went through and just sharing how I got through them. But I think I'm ready to write some more.
Wow, this is beautiful news, guys. There's another one coming, a memoir this time, courtesy of MisRed. I'm looking forward to it, because I guess also because of the industry that you're in, and because I have an idea what goes on and the sort of challenges that you get to face, and to be able to sit down as a woman, as a young girl. There's a whole lot that goes on.
Conception.
Yes.
From all
exactly.
as women in media, and how we are kind of branded. It's so bad.
I remember that for a long time I was on a tug of I'm gonna use this, and I'm sorry to people that will find it a bit offensive, but I'm just going to say it, that I was in the category of 𝗪𝗧𝗛𝗪𝗏, I'd go to certain places and people would be like, oh, she's from Power FM, or she's from Radio 3. Oh, okay. Was kind of like her. Some men, when they get drunk and whatever, they tend to say stuff. And they'll openly say that to you, and you're like, okay, I didn't.
What the craziest thing about it is? The craziest thing about it is, I think in general, women in media are seen as promiscuous, as loose.
Yes.
Because confident women scare people.
That's so true.
And I thought, being that in 2021 we've moved past all of these stereotypes, but they're still very much there.
No.
And you find that it's a problem that reaches far and wide. It's not just in media, even in corporate Zimbabwe. When a woman is firm, she's said to be too bossy, or she has traits of, I won't say the B word, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So we can't just be as assertive and strong and intelligent as
and
men.
Still
we have
be
to
vulnerable as women and be lovable. You know
what I mean?
Yeah. A lot of people don't think that
and
you can be that, all of that.
There's two parts of it. There's we either go through sexual harassment, or we are sexualized.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, that these are some of the things that we have to deal with. And sometimes, I fight, and I have so many issues with my relationship. Because people always saying stuff, because they've got these preconceived notions about who we are. And I'm so grateful to have a strong partner who's like, baby sha, but generally speaking,
and it's always good when you meet that person who's not going. It's always good when you meet that person who's not going to be listening. They will hear the stuff, but because they've chosen to know you. And they know you and how you do your thing, and they will just appreciate you for who you are, besides all the noises that are being made. And speaking about that, Samantha, the Me Too, I'm sure you know about it, the Me Too movement, in the States, and everything that happened just ballooned into a whole big thing. What can you say to young women and men as well? Look, that find themselves in the position that you are in. You're a public figure. You're one of those big names that when people say MisRed, everybody will be like, do you mean MisRed isn't MisRed? You know what I'm saying? What can you say to a young person who's already probably in the industry and they are climbing through, the ranks, or someone who really who feels inspired to want to get in there? What can you advise them in terms of, or if they are to face sexual harassment, especially sexual harassment? That's what I'm going to talk about. Because like you said, we're sexualized a lot. A lot. Oh, she's got a sexy voice, so I'm sure she's ready for, I can just, she sounds sexy, so I think you know what I'm talking about.
You know what?
What do you have to say?
And I've only been doing this for 7 years, but I can tell you stories and stories. I wish we had like hours.
I know, same here.
Don't underestimate. Don't ever underestimate the power of just hard work and consistency.
Yeah.
In as much as people may tell you that no, you have to rub shoulders with certain people, and sometimes you end up in really compromising positions.
It's true.
And you don't want to ever be in that position because you won't last that long. If you think you will, it is a lie. I've seen people who have done some really dubious things to get certain things done, and a lot of them get sidelined quicker than you can say anything.
That's true.
It's important that you just maintain your hard work, and if it's not working out because you're not doing certain favors, it's okay. Let it go. It's not for you,
Yeah.
But trust and believe. People will say a lot of things, especially when you're in media and you're a woman and you're confident. However, prove them wrong all the time by just doing some really hard work and just being consistent with your craft. No one can ever take away your real hard
is
work.
The one truth. That is the main truth. Because who you are and what God has given unto you, nobody can take away. They can try hard as they want, but they can never take away the talent, the gift that God has gifted you with. So
because people always think to me, but I'm like, yo, man,
I'm here. Keep going. I'm even doing books for you guys. I'm even writing books for you. Oh my God! I could.
Own station, gosh.
I could just go on and on and on. So much to talk about, and you're just the right person, just to really take out the information. You've got a lot of wisdom in you, like the other guy said. You've experienced a lot of things, and you've not just experienced them and then having them confuse you, but what you've done is even if you by any chance got confused, you've been blessed enough to look back and say, so how can I make myself better? How can I be a better person? And I see that in you, which is why I'm telling you that. I mean, there are a lot of young DJs, the female DJs that I follow and have respect for. I'll tell you this, I believe in passing the baton on. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
And so I follow them, not because I'm saying, ndakapera. My phase came and it went. So whatever phase I'm in now is a totally different phase. And what I believe in is looking back and celebrating. But I'll tell you that you're one of those women that I look at and I say, Kuti, there is so much in this girl. There is so much in this girl. And I wish I respect people that look at it that way. Because I know and you still have a whole lot to give to us. I'm not even telling you because I'm talking to you. But I've totally been watching, and I so much believe in you. I so much believe in you. Please go out there and ace it for all of us.
Thank you. And you know what? I think you guys really set the pace, and you made it possible for us to believe that we could have women in media who anchor, because when you were doing it, not a lot of women were anchoring. So, hey, I'm out here just trying to be like you and trying to also leave the media space a little bit better so that the next women, the next generation can also know that they can also do it the same way. And, soon we'll have women-owned media houses in Zimbabwe. And we'll really be with it. So, I think it's because you guys had the audacity to lead. So we're just taking on what you guys left.
Thank you so much. And please keep going. Don't look back. Don't look back. Whatever happens, we just keep going. Stay in the front and do your thing. Thank you.
We're gonna try.
Please keep doing what you're doing because you're right on the right track. That's what I can say.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, MisRed. I really appreciate this. And I know how the schedules can be with this kind of work. There was a time when I really didn't have a life, but people thought I had a life. Because my life would just basically be based on what I'm doing on radio and the shows that I'm going to do after that. So you'd really not have time for yourself. And that's also the time when relationships become really even difficult because you're just focusing so much and you want to win. So I'm really glad that you could make time, a whole hour for us just to talk about your book and everything else, about you that has inspired us today so much. Thank you very much. I really, really love you and I appreciate it. And I say all the very best in the future.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
No worries, no worries. You have a lovely rest of the day, okay?
Yeah, but before I go, Vanu, please buy my book.
Oh, yes, yes. Where can we get it? That's the other thing. Yes. Where can we get it?
The website is MisRed.com, and you can get it on Amazon, but also I think it'll be in bookstores. I'll post on my page. If you don't follow me already, just follow at MisRed on all platforms, and you will know the exact shops once you followed.
Great. And it's also on Amazon, isn't it? Yeah?
Yes, on Amazon, definitely there.
So there you are. Yes, please get the book. We need to support her. We shouldn't just, get the information out of her and not make her pockets look good. We should also, celebrate it by doing that, Thank you so much, girl. I appreciate it. I got so much mad love for you. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Danger, danger, danger.
Yeah, Tangatina, you're danger.
From DJ Dash, featuring MC Bushkin, 𝗪𝗪🏗, Boom song in all the place.